Hello everyone. This is Six Path Weeb, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we continue our fanfiction journey with What If Naruko Abandoned Her Nindō, Part 2. In this chapter, the story takes a darker and more complex turn as we explore the consequences of a path left behind, and the choices that follow. Disclaimer: this content is created for entertainment and discussion purposes only. I do not own any anime footage used in this video. All rights and credits belong to their respective creators and copyright holders. Now, let's begin. Naruko had never met Nindō before, but she remembered the serious tone in Jiraiya's voice when he once spoke about the hidden, complicated side of the Hidden Leaf Village. His warning had stayed with her. Now, standing here and listening to the man's words, she realized just how right her mentor had been. Sai's presence in Team 7 suddenly made more sense too. What had once seemed like simple teamwork now felt like something deeper, like pieces of a puzzle she hadn't noticed before. And now, this man was speaking as if she were something to be shaped, controlled, and used. Naruko straightened her posture, her expression calm but firm. "I won't be anyone's weapon," she said quietly, her voice steady. "I have my own dreams." There was no anger in her tone, only certainty. A faint, uneasy feeling brushed against her senses, like a cool breeze before a storm. She had trained hard to understand such feelings, to listen not just with her ears but with her instincts. Something about this situation didn't sit right with her. "I think we should leave," she murmured softly, more to herself than anyone else. She didn't need to rush. Not every challenge required strength or speed. Sometimes, the wisest choice was simply to step away and think clearly. Nindō watched her closely, his expression unreadable. "You seem confident," he said. Naruko met his gaze without hesitation. "I just know who I am." For a moment, the air between them felt heavy, filled with unspoken thoughts. Naruko noticed the people around him, quiet, still, and strangely distant. They followed his lead without question, but there was something missing in their eyes. It made her feel a little sad. Did they ever get to choose their own paths? Naruko lowered her hand, taking a small step back instead of forward. "I don't want to fight," she said. "And I don't want anyone to get hurt." Her words hung gently in the air. More figures appeared nearby, village guards, drawn by the tension. Their arrival shifted the moment. What could have become something much worse instead turned into a pause, like the story itself had taken a breath. "What's going on here?" one of them asked. Naruko glanced around, then back at Nindō. She could tell there were layers to this situation she didn't fully understand yet. But she also knew one thing clearly: this wasn't the time to act without thinking. "I'll come with you," she said calmly to the guards. They escorted her away, not roughly, but with careful watchfulness. Naruko didn't resist. She walked with them quietly, her thoughts steady. Soon, she found herself in a simple, quiet room. It wasn't comfortable, but it wasn't frightening either. She sat down, crossing her legs, and closed her eyes. Inside, everything felt still. "Well, that didn't go how I expected," she whispered to herself. But instead of frustration, a small smile touched her lips. Jiraiya had warned her. She had listened. And now, she would keep listening, to her instincts, to her heart, and to the people she trusted. "Tsunade will understand," she said softly. Naruko opened her eyes, calm and patient. No matter what happened next, she knew she would face it as herself, not as someone else's tool, but as someone who chose her own path. Naruko nodded thoughtfully. "She knows me well enough," she said quietly. "And if what Jiraiya told me is true, she won't believe anything Nindō says about me." A gentle, steady voice echoed within her. "Do you trust her that much?" Naruko gave a small, confident nod. "I do." "Then be prepared," the voice replied, calm but cautious. "People can hesitate. When they doubt, they may make choices that hurt others. We are in this situation because of misunderstanding and ambition. That man seeks something he does not fully understand." Naruko crossed her arms, thinking it over. "I'm not too worried about that," she admitted. "What I don't understand is his plan. If he really thought this through, he would know Lady Tsunade supports me. So why try this at all? There must be something else behind it." "You'll find out soon," the voice said gently, before growing quiet again. Meanwhile, in the Hokage's office. Lady Tsunade stood by her desk, her expression serious as she reflected on what she had just heard. The Onbu had reported everything carefully, but the situation still felt unclear. She dismissed them with a nod and sighed softly once the room was quiet. "I wish Jiraiya were here," she murmured. He'd have insight into this. She walked slowly across the room, deep in thought. Naruko had only just returned, and things had finally begun to feel peaceful for her. The villagers were starting to see her in a kinder light. Tsunade didn't want anything to disturb the progress. Why stir things up now? She wondered aloud. Though she felt frustrated, Tsunade knew she had to remain calm. Acting too quickly could make things worse, especially for Naruko. She called for Inoiki. When he arrived, she spoke clearly. There has been an accusation made against Naruko. I want you to carefully examine the situation and help us understand the truth. We must proceed wisely and keep everything confidential. Inoiki nodded, understanding the seriousness of her request. Yes, Hokage-sama. As he left to carry out his task, Tsunade sat down, her thoughts still restless. Something about the situation didn't sit right with her. She trusted Naruko, but she also knew she needed clear answers. Later, in a quiet holding room. Naruko sat calmly, her hands resting in her lap. She looked up as the door opened and a familiar figure stepped inside. "Ibiki," she said politely. He studied her for a moment, then gave a small nod. "You've grown," he said. "I didn't expect to see you here." Naruko smiled faintly. "Neither did I, but life can be unpredictable." Ibiki opened the door wider and gestured for her to follow. "Come with me. I'd like to ask you a few questions." She stood without hesitation and walked beside him through the quiet hallway. After a moment, he glanced at her. "You seem very calm." Naruko tilted her head slightly. "I've learned not to fear situations I don't understand yet. It's better to face them and learn from them." Ibiki seemed thoughtful at that. When they reached the room, Naruko took a seat, sitting upright and attentive. "I'll ask a few questions," he said. "Please answer honestly so we can understand what truly happened." Naruko nodded. "Of course." Ibiki gave a small, approving nod. "Then let's begin. Tell me everything from the start." Naruko took a quiet breath, ready to share her side of the story, honestly, calmly, and with hope that the truth would bring clarity to everyone involved. Naruko paused for a moment, her eyes calm and thoughtful before she spoke. "I was at home before being called to the Hokage's office," she explained gently. "The Godime wanted to check on how I've been feeling. We talked for a while, and before I left, I told her I was going to the Forest of Death to clear my thoughts. I even mentioned it might get a bit noisy since I planned to train." She folded her hands in her lap, recalling the moment with quiet clarity. "While I was training, Danzo arrived with a few shinobi. And Sai, my new teammate. Sai tried to use a sealing technique on me, but I was already focused deeply, so I managed to break free. Danzo said something about wanting me to become his weapon." She shook her head softly. "I didn't really understand what he meant." Naruko's voice remained steady, though her expression grew more serious. "I reacted quickly because something didn't feel right. After that, everything became confusing. The others left suddenly, and then the Anbu appeared." Ibiki listened carefully, writing notes before looking up at her. "When he said weapon, what do you think he meant?" Naruko sighed lightly. "I'm not sure. Maybe he wanted to control me somehow. He tried to limit my chakra, so. That's my best guess." Ibiki studied her face, noticing the calmness in her tone. "You've heard of him before, haven't you?" "Yes," she replied. "Jiraiya warned me about him. People who chase power often see others as tools. I think that's what this was about." There was a quiet pause before Ibiki continued. "Who acted first?" Naruko answered honestly. "I moved first. I didn't want things to get worse, so I made a quick decision." Ibiki nodded slowly, then asked, "Are you leaving anything out?" She shook her head. "No. That's everything I remember." After a moment, Ibiki closed his notebook and stood. Naruko rose as well, and the two began walking down the dim hallway together. As they walked, Ibiki spoke again, this time more casually. "You're close to the Hokage, aren't you? Why didn't you ask what she thinks about all this?" Naruko gave a small, understanding smile. "Because right now, she's the leader of the village first. Her responsibilities come before personal feelings." Ibiki nodded. "She did leave you a message. She said to stay patient while she handles things properly. You're not restrained like most people here. So I hope you'll continue cooperating." Naruko chuckled softly. "Of course. I have manners." Ibiki smirked. "That's not what the Hokage monument would say." She laughed quietly at that. Once she was alone again, Naruko sat down and closed her eyes, returning to a peaceful meditative posture. "You shared more than you needed to, came a familiar voice within her mind. I know, Naruko replied calmly. But sometimes, it's important to see how people respond. I trust that things will unfold the way they should. She took a slow breath, centering herself. For now. I'll wait. Elsewhere, in a hidden underground chamber, Nindō stood in silence, his thoughts carefully arranged like pieces on a board. Everything was moving according to his plan, or so he believed. When Sai appeared before him, Nindō spoke in a low, controlled voice. For now, remain out of sight. Things are delicate. Naruko will speak, and others will listen. Until everything settles, you will not return to your usual team. Sai nodded quietly. I do have a task for you, Nindō continued. You will travel to a designated location and gather information. Observe carefully, and return without drawing attention. Sai bowed slightly. Understood. As Sai disappeared into the shadows, Nindō remained still, confident in his strategy. But far away, Naruko sat peacefully, her mind clear and steady, ready to face whatever came next with courage and kindness. What was left now? Yes, Jiraiya would surely come up with something, and Tsunade would not let the matter fade away. She might wait, but she would act eventually. Naruko knew she had to be thoughtful and steady, finding a way forward without causing more worry for anyone. Before anything else, she needed to make sure the great power within her heart felt calm and guided, like a strong river flowing in the right direction. She considered everything carefully. There were many things she had chosen not to share yet, not out of secrecy, but because she needed time to understand them herself. It was better this way. Rushing would only bring confusion. And despite everything, she knew she was not foolish. She would move step by step, with care. Hokage office. It was late into the night, yet Tsunade remained at her desk, deep in thought. Reports lay before her, filled with uncertain details and half-answered questions. Inoiki had done his best, but even his abilities could not bring perfect clarity. The memories he reviewed were clouded, like a fog that refused to lift. Tsunade sighed softly. Rumors had already begun to spread through the village, stories growing larger and more dramatic with each telling. Some said Naruko had lost control, others whispered things that were simply untrue. Tsunade knew how quickly fear could grow when people did not understand something. And that worried her most. Naruko was not just any shinobi. She carried a great responsibility, and for years the villagers had misunderstood her. Things had been getting better, slowly, steadily, but rumors like these could undo that progress. Tsunade did not want Naruko to feel alone again, surrounded by doubt. She tapped her fingers lightly on the desk, thinking. Could this have been planned? She murmured to herself. To make people uncertain again. A knock came at the door. Come in, Tsunade called. Ibiki entered, placing a sealed report on her desk. I took extra time to ensure accuracy, Hokage-sama. Tsunade nodded. Tell me what matters most. Ibiki spoke calmly. Naruko was honest. She did not show anger, but she did speak with a kind of distance, like someone trying to understand her own feelings. She cooperated fully. From what I observed, she is not acting out of harm or recklessness. Tsunade listened closely. The important part, Ibiki continued, is that she believes what she told me. And I believe her. That brought Tsunade some relief. However, Ibiki added gently, there may still be things she has not said. Not out of defiance, but perhaps because she is still figuring them out. Tsunade nodded again. Thank you. I'll speak with her myself. After Ibiki left, Tsunade leaned back in her chair. She thought of Naruko, not as a shinobi, not as someone carrying great power, but as the bright, determined girl who always tried to move forward no matter what stood in her way. She's changing, Tsunade admitted quietly. But that doesn't mean she's lost. With that thought, she reached for the report, ready to understand more. Midnight, holding cells. Kakashi walked quietly down the corridor, his footsteps soft against the floor. He had just returned from a long mission, but the moment he heard about Naruko, he came straight here. He stopped at her door. Naruko, he called gently. Inside, she sat calmly, eyes closed in quiet focus. After a moment, she opened them. Her bright blue gaze met his. Kakashi-sensei, she said softly. You're back. He gave his usual relaxed smile. Just got in. Thought I'd check on you. She tilted her head slightly. At this hour? Someone might think you're here to sneak me out. Kakashi chuckled lightly. You always did have an imagination. Maybe, she replied, a small smile forming. Or maybe I just like seeing how people react. There was a brief silence, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Kakashi studied her for a moment, not with worry, but with quiet understanding. You seem calm, he said. I am, Naruko answered. There's a lot to think about. But I'll figure it out. Kakashi nodded. I know you will. And for the first time that night, things didn't feel quite so heavy. She wasn't surprised to see the Jonin waiting nearby. Kakashi Hatake had never been the most conventional teacher. His lessons had focused on teamwork, patience, and small but meaningful skills, but he had always been deeply human. Beneath his calm manner, there was a quiet weight, as though he carried many memories he wished he could gently set down. I thought you might be asleep, Kakashi said, his visible eye softening. But I'm glad I can talk to you. I can't sleep here, Naruko Uzumaki replied calmly. I tried, but it doesn't feel like a place for rest. And someone visited earlier. Her voice stayed steady, though her thoughts were busy. The visitor had brought a message meant to unsettle her, but Naruko understood something important. Fear only grows when you give it space. She chose not to. Let me guess. Someone sent by Danzo? Kakashi asked quietly. Naruko nodded slightly. They wanted me to believe they can reach me anywhere. Kakashi was silent for a moment. How are you holding up? This situation. It isn't fair. You're not questioning anything? She asked, tilting her head. I know enough, Kakashi replied. And I trust you. Naruko looked down at her hands for a moment, thoughtful rather than sad. My life hasn't been simple, she said. But there were good times. Team 7. You, Sakura, and Sasuke. Those moments mattered. She paused, then added gently, right now, I'm not sure how I feel. But I think I'll figure it out. When I leave here, I'll face whatever comes next. Kakashi's expression grew more serious. There's something else you should know, he said. There are rumors spreading in the village. They're not accurate, but people are talking. Naruko listened quietly. She didn't interrupt, didn't react sharply. When he finished, she simply nodded. I see. Her response was calm, but thoughtful. She understood how easily stories could change as they passed from person to person. It wasn't something she could control, but how she responded to it, that was hers to choose. I think someone wants to push you into doubt, Kakashi continued. To make you feel alone. Naruko gave a small, understanding smile. That might be true. But I don't have to accept that feeling. She looked up, her eyes steady. If people don't understand me yet, that just means there's more for them to learn. And maybe more for me to learn too. Kakashi watched her carefully, as if trying to read her thoughts. But Naruko's strength wasn't loud, it was quiet, like a steady flame. Thank you for telling me, she added. I'll think about it tonight. For a while, neither of them spoke. The silence wasn't uncomfortable, it felt like a shared pause, a moment to breathe. Eventually, Naruko closed her eyes gently. You should go somewhere peaceful, Kakashi-sensei. You've got a lot on your mind too. He nodded slowly. Take care, Naruko. When he left, the space felt quieter, but not empty. Naruko opened her eyes again, staring thoughtfully ahead. Her life had been full of challenges, but she understood something important. Difficult moments didn't define who she was. What mattered was what she chose next. Deep inside, a familiar presence stirred. People can be confusing, came the voice of Kurama. Do you really think they're worth understanding? Naruko smiled faintly. I'm one of them, she replied. So yes, I think they are. She leaned back, her thoughts settling into a quiet determination. If I want to make things better, she continued softly, I need to understand people first. Not just their actions, but their feelings, their fears, their hopes. Kurama was quiet for a moment. That's not an easy path, he said. Naruko nodded. I know. But I don't need an easy path. I just need the right one. The night stretched on, calm and still. And though the future was uncertain, Naruko felt something steady growing within her, not fear, not anger, but resolve. Tomorrow would come with new challenges. And she would meet them, one step at a time. Dear YouTube family. That's all for now, but the journey doesn't end here. Stay connected, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next video. If you enjoyed this, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. Regards. 6 Path Weeb.